Again, clarifying what I meant by trickle down, since there was some confusion about that. Again, we've tried trickle-down philosophies and policy for the past 30 years, and I don't think that we need to give them another 30 years of catastrophic economic cycling and impact on the families in Bend going forwards. Those would include things like, again, cutting inheritance tax, which Jason talked about, business people and people that earn these, that earn this wealth and so forth. The fact is there are already exemptions in place up to $1 million for money that you can pass on to the next generation. For those people that are land rich and cash poor, of which I admit there are plenty of people that don't want to sell a family farm because of an inheritance situation, there are exemptions in place up to $7.5 million in land value. So there are plenty of protections in place. So we are talking about a plan for millionaires when we talk about cutting the inheritance tax. Capital gains tax cut has been a part of the trickle-down philosophy. And Jason, you were the first one to mention capital gains a moment ago, not me. That's been part of that set of philosophies for many, many years. We tried it. We deregulated our financial markets. We tried cutting capital gains. We have seen the results over and over and over again. The corporate kick. I am not going to fake it here. I need to study some more on that measure. In general, I would say that I think there are a lot of legitimate uses of medical marijuana. I know individuals that have different forms of arthritis, they have different painful diseases, glaucoma and others that they have found relief. And I think that if we regulate it carefully, there's even the potential for some public revenue there. I think we have to proceed obviously very carefully. There's the potential for abuse. I'm not sure it's a very critical issue right now when there are things like our schools and education, K through 12 and higher ed, people out of work and people facing foreclosure and so forth. They're probably higher profile issues for most of the constituents of the district. But in general, I favor the medical use of marijuana.
I actually don't disagree with that. I know that there are medical uses for marijuana. I know people who use medical marijuana and have a lot of benefit from it. I think in terms of legalizing it, I haven't read the initiative. I'm not overly, I certainly would characterize it as a low priority right now. And I don't think that legalizing marijuana is probably good policy without being able to comment specifically about the terms of the initiative. I've read quite a bit about the harmful effects of marijuana. Some of the things that I've read have suggested that a marijuana cigarette has 3 times the harmful stuff in it that a tobacco cigarette does. And so we're doing a lot, spending a lot of money and a lot of time to try to reduce tobacco use because of the health effects. And so repopulating another harmful drug into the population is probably not a great idea. The other, I think, issue with the medical marijuana is that it appears that that system is subject to a lot of abuse. It's not supposed to be a money-making opportunity, but you're not supposed to be in a for-profit business selling marijuana for medical use, but it does occur. It's supposed to be for specific kinds of diseases that it can be shown to help with, and yet the population, or the number of people with access to medical marijuana has grown at exponential rates over the last few years. And I really, I don't have the data to back it up, but I question whether or not there's really all that need. And so that probably means that the medical marijuana system is being abused. And the last comment I would make is that I've had teachers approach me and say that they've seen an increase in access to marijuana because people are illegally growing marijuana plants, but in a place where kids can access it, and they do. So that's obviously a concern.
I guess we differ slightly here, maybe it's in terms of degree, but I do want protections in place for schools and kids. That would be very important in any measure or plan to go forward and sort of, I don't know, liberalizing restrictions on access to medical marijuana. I do think that there are significant benefits to the use of medical marijuana with certain afflictions, and I've known some individuals that have seen some very positive results. So I'd like to see us move forward in that regard, not backwards to a just say no kind of mentality. I'd like to see us move forward with appropriate protections in place and so forth, but move forward rather than back.
It's interesting, our system has been in place for a long, long time and probably does need to be modernized. One of the problems, I think, so our system of extensive state involvement in the market and distribution of liquor has created a mission that is at tension with itself for the agency. So the OLCC is the regulator of alcohol, meaning that, of course, sale to minors, for example, is illegal, and so OLCC is responsible for making sure that that doesn't occur. OLCC also has, as a part of its mission, kind of a temperance overtone, meaning that overuse or abuse of alcohol is supposed to be diminished by the fact that we have state control over the market, if you will. But at the same time, an enormous amount of state revenue is generated by the OLCC, and I believe that the OLCC feels a lot of pressure, both from retail level franchisees and grocery stores, but also from consumers, frankly, to expand, make more convenient access to alcohol. And those two, categories of objectives are in complete tension with each other. If you're trying to generate more revenue, so I've sat in committee and had the OLCC director come in and show a presentation about how much more revenue the OLCC is generating for the state. Well, that's great, because that's good. We need that revenue to provide services. But at the same time, that means more alcohol I've had being distributed. Is that bad or good? I don't know, but it's at tension with the OLCC's own mission. I've also had the OLCC come in and make a presentation about how its system is keeping the price of alcohol down compared to other states, including Washington, which just deregulated its sale of alcohol. And that's good, obviously, from a consumer perspective, but probably not from a consumption perspective. And again, without saying which side of that question is right, I can certainly say that the OLCC is an agency that doesn't know what its mission is, and we've put it in that position, and we need to get it out of it. It's either a regulator and a controller of abuse and consumption, or it's a marketing agency that is there to make more money. So that's my answer is yes, it needs to be reformed. Very carefully, very thoughtfully, because I think we can probably learn from the state to the north that is going through this process of rapid deregulation after having a system similar to Oregon's, not the same, but similar, for a long time, and it would be prudent to make sure that we look at that as an example so that we can avoid some of the pitfalls that I think inevitably they will experience.
Let's see, I followed some of the process in Washington State, and I'm aware that a big part of the funding for the campaign to deregulate state control of liquor sales was funded by Costco, sort of a carpet bombing strategy up there. I would not like to see that here in Oregon. I don't have a lot to disagree with, actually, with what Jason said. I am aware from speaking with OLCC officials that they do place a prominent role on their sort of educational protective role in liquor sales, that it's not just wide open, obviously particularly in regards to minors. And it is a significant source of revenue for the state, so when you reform to OLCC oversight, we should make sure that we're giving careful consideration to state revenues in this environment of challenged state revenues. And I think that pricing and affordability has to be a consideration too. I've seen, as I'm sure Jason has, arguments on both sides of OLCC control, retaining it or abolishing it as far as its impact on affordability. I will say though that you know, there are times sometimes on the weekends when I'm going to have a margarita and I look up in my cabinet and I'm a little bit short. And there is a convenience factor that for the consumer. And I've been on the short end of that stick too many times when I know the stores are closed. So I'm trying to give a real answer here and not just straddling the fence. I think it is an important issue. I would be open to discussing it. I think that our priority should be, you know, number one priority would be protections for minors, safety and protections for minors. And I think affordability for the consumer and convenience for the consumer, and then impact on state revenue.